Go ahead and get started. I'll talk while everyone eats. Okay, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and let's hope it's not a train. The agenda was unfortunately not printed out because, no, it's up here, and it's up there right now. So you have it in your email, but also it's handwritten here, which I think we should do the whole report like that.
Excellent idea.
And cross out, and that would be fun, wouldn't it? So let's go over the agenda. We'll approve the minutes. We'll have a very brief discussion by me. We'll go into policy area 6 that we finished up, and we'll go over the recommendations in there. We'll go over policy area 5 then, and preview the final report if we can get to that, right? Or is that something we want to make sure we have some time set aside at the end?
I have probably something that could take 5 minutes to get the outline that I'm using as I'm doing the beginning stages of the draft.
So maybe we'll go until, if we go that long, we'll go until 8:40, and then do those 5 minutes and then do public comments after that. If anyone wants to do public comments, the sign-in sheet is right up front. I welcome you. We're going to pull it up after 45 minutes. And then we will adjourn. If we finish before 9, that's great, but we have set aside 3 hours for the meeting tonight. And thank you to the town of Summerfield, right, who provided dinner? Is that, do I have that correct? Thank you to the town of Summerfield. Thank you, town of Summerfield, for providing food. That was very nice. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I have a correction.
On the agenda?
Oh, no, sorry.
I think I have the same correction.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Perfect. Okay, so now the minutes. I think
I
that's where you
do
want to.
have an edit to the minutes. So down on page 2, on the second page, where it says, I can't say your name. Patricia, yeah. Patricia suggested a IP district, it should say OSRD.
And it should say Priscilla.
Yeah, Priscilla instead of Patricia, that's why I couldn't say
But
it.
that's okay, people call me Patricia my whole life.
On page
Like
2.
I wasn't saying it right.
Oh.
Page 2.
Got it.
Oh, where it says Patricia? Yeah, it should
It should
say
say
Priscilla,
Priscilla.
and it should say suggested an OSRD instead of a.
OSRD-IP.
Yes.
And I think the OSRD-M.
Yes.
Is that what it should be?
Yes.
I had carried it here. So
I should have caught that too.
I wonder if you said Patricia. I was like, I've never said that before.
Okay, any other edits to the minutes? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes with that change, or those 2 changes? Second?
Second.
Jason? And Bob was second, right? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Perfect. So the discussion, I just want to keep us motivated and going. I think we're making great progress. I think we have the 2 toughest, save for the last, obviously. We had a great meeting last time, so I really appreciate everyone's work in contributing. And then tonight we will continue with the water. Now there's no one from the town here, so we can't get an update on the water study and where it stands yet, but we'll jump into that when we talk about the water. From the town staff, there's no one from the town staff here who can give us an update on the water study. Todd, do you, from the council's perspective, do we have any?
No, we still don't know where they're going to be. They're still probably out maybe June. Around that
It's
time frame.
unfortunate. We'd love to have that for this committee, at least when we go forward. Okay.
What is the overall scope of that? Do you know, Todd?
No, because we've gotten their feedback. We've got a general water map. so far, which you can go into town hall and look, and they do have it there, and they're just kind of showing the possibility for running water along, the major thoroughfares like 73.
It's my understanding that we were doing a groundwater study, right? Which would update or supersede the study from,
I think it's a table study.
that was done in '97.
I wouldn't say it supersedes, it's just in addition to. I think it's more the approach and how they were looking.
Or would update the study that was done in '97, published in '98, is that correct? And look at other
It's really totally separate.
alternatives.
I wouldn't even equate the two to be the same thing. Kind of what we're kind of getting from them, I mean, because they're doing it in a whole other different way. So, which is good, yeah. another
But it is
perspective.
looking at groundwater availability and aquifer and so forth,
Correct.
in addition to, as I understand it, other potential alternatives for providing
Right,
water resources, not septic, but water resources to the community.
correct.
Okay, so it's twofold. Do we know if either of those pieces have been completed yet? And if so, it would seem to me that the groundwater piece would be the most important relative to our consideration. If it were done, even if the whole report wasn't completed, it would behoove us to have that before we get too much further downstream.
And excuse the pun, right? As a data point, right? Now, did you want to add something
I have been going to these water meetings if y'all want me to get you up to date.
on the study? Sure.
What we're waiting on now is the cost of what it's gonna run, and we are still waiting to hear
The
from
cost, I'm sorry.
To run what?
the cost of the pipes to run. We're waiting on the cost, and we're also waiting on Golder Associates. They're the one that's doing the tabletop water study. And we've got another meeting,
Tabletop water study.
tabletop water study. They only granted us like 3,000 to do this study, that's all.
What is it? Tabletop water study.
They'll take this study, this study, this study, this study, and they'll combine it and we'll get a tabletop study. That's what this study is all about.
So it's a groundwater study.
That's what Golder Associates is doing.
Okay. But what you indicated a minute ago was that what they were waiting on was the infrastructure piece, which is a completely different component of the overall. Is that correct?
Well, that's where we're waiting on the cost of, because the only thing we're waiting on is the cost in the Golder Associate report. And we're gonna have that, and they're saying right now it's probably gonna be mid-March, mid-May to the end of May before they ready to present it to the town. So it's coming soon,
Do
we're
we
just
know
gonna
where
wait
the
on them.
delay came versus the original February to March that was projected?
The water study is what's being the holdup right now. So until we get that back,
The groundwater study.
correct.
So are there components that could be released to this group while we're in the final throes? I mean, is that something we could ask for?
Yes, the water map, dadgummit, I should have bought y'all a water map.
That was, how did we
And that's
see
why I said,
that?
that's the only thing they've released is the water map, because they're kind of waiting until it's all compiled, because they want to do it all at the same time.
Because I think we're down to 2 people who's willing to sell us water.
Yeah, and I think that's the last thing we care about for this group,
Yeah,
right? I
I'm
mean, we
not
care about the
concerned
groundwater
Yeah, I'm
and
more concerned with what are our
density around
resources
groundwater.
and defining what we can do with the current resources relative to the UDO, because that's really,
It sounds
has
though
been
like,
a stumbling block.
I mean, I haven't seen the report, but it kind of sounds like, I mean, at least to me, that the focus was more on the cost estimates for, and reaching out to other entities, because you said there was a max budget for this study of $3,000?
For the groundwater study,
Okay,
for
so-
Golder.
I mean, I don't know, I don't necessarily price that, but in order to do something highly extensive, like
Wait a minute,
Figure it out.
30,000, I'm sorry, 30,000.
30,000, well,
30,000.
now I'm gonna just stop talking then, because 30,000 and 30,000 are two different points.
Sorry.
So
30,
you'll get more for 30,000 than 30 is what I was going at was, I don't think it'll be very extensive if we only put $3,000 into that part of it. It would have been more superficial, kind of like what she
But
was
when we
talking
first
about.
started the UDO committee, wasn't it our understanding that it was going to be a revisit of the USGS study of 97?
But
and
focused on,
based upon current information and correction of some of the erroneous information in the old study? Isn't that-
No, actually, it was trying to source water from outside the county to bring into the northwest part of the county.
That's the feasibility for the water authority. And then part of what we asked for in addition, what was asked for in addition was a groundwater.
Right.
But that's just a review. No one's going around the county measuring pumps and looking at water levels.
Not.
It's just a review of what's.
So I don't know what to what extent they're going, but I understand it's more extensive than just a review.
Yeah, what they're doing, John, is they're taking this study, this study, this study, this study, and they're combining all their information and coming up with one study for
One conclusion.
the different jurisdictions.
I'm not gonna judge until I see it.
Well, and that's somewhat what I feel like is, maybe I think I'm a little confused here. We're here to talk about water and density. And we know we have a flawed water report from 97.
Well,
There's apparently a groundwater study that we haven't even seen. So we don't know what's in that study. How can we have a realistic conversation about density of water when we don't even know, when we haven't even seen that report and what's in it? It seems like to me, we ought to get that report before we have a discussion around water and density. I mean, how can that seems
I
to be
actually
pretty.
I think it's actually quite the opposite. This regional study is gonna take another year or so. There's different municipalities will have to agree or not agree with it for the cost. We can certainly recommend to the zoning board that when this study gets completed, that they consider it. We're not supposed to be experts on groundwater. I think we make this written, we write this up and make our recommendations based upon what we have and what we know now.
Which is flawed.
It doesn't matter, it's what the
Yeah,
town
well,
has adopted.
It matters to me. It matters a lot to
But
me.
we're not hydrologists, we're not geologists, there's nobody that tells us here's the right study. So
Well,
I think,
I'm not prepared to move forward in a scenario where we're making decisions on flawed
but
data.
we're not gonna make recommendations on density here. We've already put wording in some of our documents here where we say we're gonna recommend the zoning board to use science-based decisions around density. We've already talked about
It
that.
just seems like to me, it would make a whole lot more sense if we knew what this water study had in it before we had discussions around water and density.
And we can avoid by saying, here's what we know today, here's what the town has today. If it changes in the future, the zoning board and town council should take care of it. But we're not in the position to guess what this study's gonna look like. And our guide,
My point was that, and you just said that the final study and report for the municipalities and on and on and on will not be completed for another year. But we were told when we started the UDO committee that there was a water study that had been contracted and the results should be available in February or March.
Correct.
So what is the
Right.
disconnect there? It was my understanding
Because-
the water study was,
it's just a study.
It
You
just
have to
went
get,
wrong.
you have to get all the municipalities to agree if they wanna buy into it. In the process of this, Stokesdale said they didn't want it. Maybe with Stokesdale out of it, it's, too expensive for the town.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
my
those are things that we
understanding
don't
was
know.
that we were gonna have that report at our disposal before we ever had discussions around.
We hoped, that was the wish, but
Yeah,
we're not in
that
control.
was the idea.
But
So
we're
now
not
we're
in
missing
control
a
of it.
very, very important piece of the puzzle. And, well, yeah, we are. Well, we'll just agree to disagree on that. We'll agree to disagree. But we are missing a very important piece of the puzzle because we have water study that was done in '97, is horrendously bad. We know that. It's fact. It's a horrendously bad study. And we're waiting, we thought we were gonna have a more current study that was gonna be fact. And I don't know what's in that. I don't know what's in it. I mean, I don't know what's in it. I have no clue. But I think to have a discussion around water and density, it sure would make sense to me that we would have that data before we did that.
Can I offer something? Would it be sensible to base that recommendation around the timeline for the release of that study?
Which I now hear is a year down the
Well,
road.
I think, no, so you're gonna have some information to chew on in May or early June. So, I mean, realistically, the planning board is
But we're
not.
presenting this in May. So
Right, so but I'm
how can
saying you
we
could.
present this in May if we don't have that information?
No, I'm saying you could leave those recommendations out around the density and water and put it into the planning board's realm to say, we don't have all the information and we're waiting for this report.
My point was that if we take,
You don't want to hold up everything else, sorry.
if we took the approach, and I thought we were taking the approach that we were not making any assumptions about municipal water supply, or piping it in, or a relationship with Stokesdale, or Oak Ridge, or New York City, or anything else. We're talking about, given the resources that we have, and given what the state allows and considers acceptable densities and so forth, and assuming that the adjustments can be made to the USGS report, which I thought was what the process was, then we would use that information to figure out what the water component of the comprehensive plan should be. And the comp plan, to me, is 12 policies that you don't separate into 12 separate pieces and consider them just individually, but you look at the comp plan as a whole was adopted by the town May 11th, 2010, and that we are charged with identifying how to make the UDO in compliance with the comprehensive plan, and not say, well, one piece gets eliminated because of another piece, or we're not going to meet these policy recommendations because of a problem over here. We look at them individually. We know that with the water source and the utilization, the consumption that was used in the '97 study published in '98 included technology that was a whole lot different than today. It acknowledged the percentage of water consumption that was typically utilized by flushing toilets. Well, toilet flushing today, based on current technology and regulations and requirements and so forth, is a whole lot different than it was 20 years ago. The utilization of recycling of gray water and so forth is a whole lot different than it was 20 years ago. And it was those things that I thought were going to be getting updated to give us the basis of, given these assumptions and what even the guys who did the USGS saying there's 0.73 million gallons per acre in the water source, then what is our consumption, what are the recharge rates and so forth, then what can our density be, forgetting about pipes or anything else. That was my assumption.
Yeah, you can't assume we will join a water authority and bring
Right.
water in here, and if we did, when that would be,
Yeah.
there's no, you can't make
I
that.
mean, we'd be sitting here
Right
10
now,
years
it's
from
well and
now doing
septic.
the same thing.
It's well and septic, and for the
Right.
foreseeable future, based
Absolutely.
on current information,
Right.
that's what we do.
Just to bring everybody's attention back to, Carrie sent this update email on April 2nd about the delay in the water study. She did say delayed to May or June. And she said, although we will have to work through the water section without the benefit of the study results, we still have the comp plan to guide recommendations.
There will also be time for your recommendations to ultimately be weighed against the study results prior to zoning board deliberations and town council consideration adoption.
I thought that was May 30. I thought that was gonna occur before the water, now before the
She
water
did
study.
think, but this was her email to us, just the update on the water study, she knew she wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
And,
that was the one last week, right?
yeah,
Well, so with this lens on right now, that more than likely, we're not gonna have any new data. And we've gotten data from an expert who came in and spoke. We have an old study that obviously there's questionable, some say discredited, some say false, some say it's questionable, I think is a good question, is a good explanation for it. And then we know there's a lot of science now that wasn't around, not just flushing toilets, but faucets, but developers and how they do recapture systems. And I'm not an expert on any of this, but I would guess there's a lot more technology now, especially in well and septic areas. And that expert did tell us that. And she talked about a totally different density. But knowing all this as one big piece of data that we have, or independent pieces of data that we have, I think we can talk through some of this and see if there is a spot where we say, hey, this is an area we can't go forward on until we have conclusive data, or at least more data, then let's have that discussion. I say we get through, and I know this is going to be hard because it does kind of talk about density, and it talks about some of the things that we've recommended with OSRD and OSRD IP and all of those, or PDs. But I think we still need to continue those conversations while we can, because those aren't directly tied to the water. Then start talking about water, see what we can come up with there. And if there is a big red line that we can say, we have to stop here because we don't have more data, let's do that. Or let's have that discussion at least. I don't think it has to stop us tonight.
I was gonna ask
I'm not a
Jesse.
soil scientist.
You're not a soil guy, you have no experience in soil. But you're doing it.
But I think we still have a lot more conversation around the policy area we did last time, because there's still some holes in what was written. So I think we should start those conversations now.
One of your recommendations could even be, to do a more comprehensive study or have USGS review. What I think, what Carrie told me is that the USGS will be requested to review whatever gold.
That's a
Which I think is
that's a
important.
perfect recommendation that we can make.
Yeah, and I think that's I think I would, that's why I brought it up.
Right.
Because I think it's important to have some peer review of,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Any further discussion on this frustrating situation?
Well, the only other thing I want to bring up though is if there are components of that do become available, we should be able to see those, even if it's further down in our process, even up until the very end.
Right.
So I would ask the 3 council members who are here and staff, if they watch this, if there's components that are available, it would help us a ton to at least see those and see where it's going. It doesn't have to be the final report, but it could, if the groundwater part of it is done, not the piping and bringing a water system in here, but if the groundwater study is done, we should try and look at it.
I'll definitely carry it.
Is that something that, we have 2 members of town council here who could raise it through?
I mean, that's fair. That makes a lot of sense.
If there's anything that is relevant to this consideration, that you're framing recommendations about residential densities, among other things, and also about water issues, particularly groundwater and alternative technologies.
Yeah, I think my overall point on that, though, was that if we look at something like the recommendations in comp plan for higher density, multi-use, creative application and so forth, I'm trying to identify the highest and best use of land, which is what we should also be considered where the landowner is concerned, then I think we need to find ways of making sure that all of those issues can be addressed, and that we don't come to something like the water and say, oh, well, because of water, we can't do this item, this item, this item. And at that point in time, we're invalidating components of the policy and vision. We need to back up and figure out which one's right, or does the plan need to be revisited, or what? Because if you can't do that because of this, at the same time, I don't think that we should have red herrings out there that are diverting our attention away from the realities of what the situation is.
Totally agree.
Yeah, you have, throughout your whole process, there's the comprehensive plan that you're treating as this fixed set of policy guidelines. And,
But the comprehensive plan doesn't state a density limit.
no,
There's no fixed number that's stated anywhere in the comprehensive plan policies. The only place where it is in the development ordinances.
the comprehensive plan, I think, mentions in some of the,
And none
side,
of
what I
the-
call the side text
Most,
beyond.
but none of the policies that would say, this
It's
is
not
the
in the
density
policy
for
statement.
our town.
Are, any further discussion about this? I know it's on everybody's
Well,
awareness.
it does say in the comprehensive plan density.
Policies.
It didn't give a number.
Not, well, no,
This
it does
is
in
low
the, you're not,
density.
you're right, in the
Yeah.
policies it doesn't, it does in
It says most.
the explanation of, okay, I didn't catch that.
It's in the commentary part.
Oh,
Everything
policies.
Apartments, skyrise, there's a lot.
That is the policy, they were trying to get as
I don't
general
think
as
there's-
possible to show an overview and not be so precise. I think that's what it was. And then we have to keep in mind that when we're doing the UDO, that some things that we're not going to be able to give the total because that is not our expertise on any of it, whether it's water, whether it's housing or anything. So what we're doing in our recommendations is simply saying, these are the things that we need you to look at and do it according to whatever new scientific things are out there. That gives a leeway for whatever comes up, so that we don't have to stop working just because we don't have the water part. But instead, we continue on and we can generalize and use things like the future. The wording is what we need to do, and see to it that it's done that way, as opposed to trying to be so precise. Because we are trying to match, we have to remember when I'll go to this, it is to try to bring the UDO in compliance with the policy, the plan. So that's what we have to keep in mind. We cannot just be experts and say this, because we don't know. And things will change. Things change from one day to the other. So, and there's something new. How many times have we changed our smartphones? So we have to understand that things are going to change a lot, and we cannot do everything so precise. So I don't think, to me, I did not find that there was a problem when she sent the information saying that it was still going to be late, because I could still do what I have to do. Did I get the last word on that?
Are we ready to move into the re-review of policy, your recommendations from the last meeting for policy area 6?
First of all, this is large enough to read. So I'm trying to capture all the whole, each side, so you've got the policy area, UDO page number.
And this is in policy 6.1. It says that residential development should remain mostly low density, single-family detached housing, but also foster appropriate instances of I think that the language is speaks to single-family attached and others.
For other houses.
Other housing forms. Let's look at the first recommendation for that, and it picks up a lot of comments. Include appropriate instances for housing types other than low-density, single-family detached in the traditional zoning districts, as well as PD and/or OSRD type zoning. And there's,
We need to change that, was that, is that a different,
I think
OSRD is good, okay.
I think we're gonna re-review this language, and if anybody has any suggestions or either commentary on it or for changing what you see.
Well, I like, you know, you can take, I would say, take, I would take PD out. It says in DOA, if that comes before me, and I see PD, that would be a DOA.
Are you then suggesting the removal of the parenthetical phrase?
Sorry to leave it in, I'm just
I
saying
don't
that.
think we should be, we've come across many, many instances of where to satisfy the comp plan, we need something like a PD or
Okay, that's
OSRD.
fine.
And as much as people are afraid of that word, it's a necessary thing to have in there.
So that's something I've been thinking about a lot is, you know, we said, and I didn't know this until Carrie, I think, explained it at the last meeting, but the difference in a PD and ORSD is the amount of planning that has to happen in advance by the developer, right? So to me, I guess we have to look at what's better for the town, right? That's what we're our task. PD is never mentioned in here. OSRD is, but it's only for the larger lot developments. I'm not an expert at this, but is a PD better for the town because of those? And maybe you guys know a lot better. And is that just something we have to figure out to make sure that the development ordinance has a PD that is well written versus very vague the way it is now, or the other one that was proposed last year or whenever it was?
If you don't have some sort of PD, you don't have any kind of innovation.
The OSRD.
What was the,
OSRD IP.
IP, does
is
that?
that what we were really
Yeah,
calling?
we were gonna change.
Right.
We gotta
we were gonna
change
it.
PD to OSRD.
So to-
But recall, like, the part of that discussion came in,
Innovative plan.
the OSRD IP looks promising. But the way I understand it is that the different mechanisms, and maybe we can create an OSRD IP that has this feature of PD. My understanding is we get to see a lot more upfront before the zoning changes, right? And that's a problem with conventional zoning, because my understanding is that they get a zoning change before the community gets to see what's going to happen. And then they come and they show you a plan.
That's with an OSRD or a
That's
PD?
with an OSRD as a more of a conventional style zoning. You guys are experts.
Yeah, I would say a good summary of that is traditional zoning,